Welcome to Golf Smarter Mulligans number 21. I'm Fred Green. Our guest today is the founder of the Bird Golf Academy, Jay Ewing. Now, in an earlier episode of Mulligans, we met Carey Mumford and heard about his Clear Key system. Well, the Bird Golf Academy was where we first met Carey, because they were one of the largest academies in the world to incorporate the Clear Key mental system to better golf. In this conversation, Jay provides insights to Carey's work and also shares a couple of his all-time favorite tips, one for putting and another he learned as a young golfer and still uses today. Golf Smarter Mulligans is supported by two guys with golfballs.com, offering premium used golf balls at a fraction of the cost of new ones. You know, you don't have to buy new golf balls every time because you can play with premium quality used balls that have barely been touched. They look great. You would never know the difference. Even before you make your order, every ball from two guys with golfballs.com has been hand inspected, sanitized, and then they grade them for quality so you are confident that when you open a sleeve from two guys with golfballs.com, you're going to get something that you would never know is not a new ball. Golf Smarter and Golf Smarter Mulligans listeners get an additional 10% off of every order. Why aren't you taking care of it? Make sure that you go to two guys with golfballs.com and use the code GolfSmarter at checkout to get that additional 10% off. The discount offer expires April 1, 2020. And make sure, two guys with golfballs.com. Mulligans is also brought to you by Autoslash.com. Autoslash.com is the rental car booking service that will save you time, hassle, and money. Autoslash applies every available coupon code that you have to your next car rental. And that includes coupons you're eligible for based on various memberships like AAA and Costco, or your travel memberships and airlines memberships. Then they track your reservation until you pick up the car. And they email you when they find a better rate. And sometimes you'll receive them daily, but you don't have to act on it. But you should pay attention because the average user saves 30% off of any other booking site. And Autoslash.com is completely free. So bookmark it now on your browser. It's not an app. It's in your browser, and use it for your next car rental so that you can get the best rate possible from the completely free Autoslash.com. Now let's get to our conversation with Jay Ewing. Welcome, Jay.
Thank you, Fred. It's lovely to be with you this morning.
Your website says that you're the ultimate golf learning experience. Mm-hmm. Why do you make that kind of claim, and what does that mean?
Well, not only is it a claim for us, but it's a heartfelt belief. It's also our registered trademark. The reason for that is fairly simple. What differentiates our school from any other are two things. One is our format, because we teach only one or two-on-one, meaning one or two students to one instructor at any time. And secondly, it's the person that teaches. We're not a school that's headed up by one famous person and then you would go and work with one of their assistants being taught a method or a system, but rather we are a group of individuals that I think, and I don't mean to be immodest when I say this, but I don't think there's the likes of which out in our industry. These are exceptional teachers that have been teaching the great majority of them for over 25 years. So what really differentiates us is our format and then also who teaches our student. The ultimate golf learning experience is a credo that we live by. So not only is it supported by the two things that we believe differentiate us, but it's also the customer service that's involved, the way we look after our students, and how we approach doing what we want to do.
Many golf academies are associated with, like you said, with somebody's name or with a product, but the Bird Golf Academy is not something that just rolls right to the front of mind. Why did you go with the name Bird?
Well, actually, Bird was a bit of an accident. Many years ago when I was setting up the corporation, and you have to do all that tedious stuff like get corporate papers together and present things to both the federal and local governments on behalf of a corporation. I was sitting around with three friends of mine who happened to be, one was a tax attorney, one was a lawyer, and the other person was a CPA. And they were helping me do all the logistics of the company. And so one of the things that you have to do is submit 5 names that you would like, and hopefully you get the one at the top of your list. But the 5 names that I had come up with, none of them really liked. They were all sort of generic names for the school. My nickname is Jaybird, or actually shortened to Bird, so most of my close friends call me Bird. And when we were sitting in the meeting, the accountant said, well, come on, Bird, think of something. And, of course, the lawyer, being the lawyer, said, that's great. Let's go with Bird. So Bird is actually a bit of an accident, but it's a microcosm of my nickname.
All right, well, that works. Now, a lot of schools, they go with, large groups. They go with 10 to 15, maybe 20 people over a couple-day period. And you're claiming that the Bird Golf Academy just goes on a 2-to-1 or 1-to-1 basis with your instructors. How do you survive doing that?
Well, when we set out to start the school, what we wanted to do was create something unique and special. And all of us meaning all of our teachers, PGA and LPGA professionals, of course, we've all taught in a more traditional environment where it was either giving somebody a 1-hour lesson once a week or doing group schools type situations. Now, the problem with groups is that once somebody gets stuck, and in a learning environment, you're going to get stuck doing new things or doing things differently. If you're in a group of 4, 5, 6 people, no matter how talented the instructor is, they can't help fix that person that's stuck without neglecting the other people. And additionally, we don't believe that there's one method or one system. Group schools, as it were, tend to teach all one method rather going down a checklist. And what we would have you understand is that there's lots of ways to swing a golf club. And those things are independent to your build, your age, your coordination, what you've already learned and how you've learned it so far. So a really skilled teacher, and that, of course, goes back to who teaches for us, all of these people are conversant with several different styles, so they're not put into a box. So they don't have to teach everybody the same stuff. And so therefore, when you're working with someone 1 or 2-on-1, you can go at a much smoother pace. The learning becomes enormously accelerated. And because it's such an individual situation, that if you do get stuck, your instructor has the time and the ability to work you through that to help you improve.
I sometimes will watch the Golf Academy and think, how can I possibly learn anything when they're just giving out generic instructions? I mean, I think that if you really want to improve your method or your technique, you need to have an instructor to work with you,
Yeah.
And then so like the Golf Channel is just a microcosm or actually the reverse of what a group class would be, right?
Yeah, in many ways. I mean, how many times have you seen the cover of Golf Digest and it says, fix your slice?
Every month?
Yeah. That's because 90% of golfers slice the ball.
Okay.
So they're addressing, their market, because somebody obviously is going to pick that up and go, oh, gosh, I wonder if they can help me fix my slice. Well, there's probably 100 reasons that someone's slicing the ball, and those are particular to each person. So all the people that do shows on the Golf Channel, the people whose articles you read in Golf Digest, these are wonderfully talented professionals. This is not to disparage their ability as professionals, because they really know what they're talking about. The problem is they can't see you. So while they might have fixed Joe Smith's slice and they fixed it this way, he might be slicing it for a completely different reason that you do. So basically people keep putting Band-Aids on their golf swing. And one of the things that we sort of jokingly say is that we really want people to read those magazines. We want them to watch the Golf Channel, and we want them to keep putting quick fixes in there, because quite frankly, that's an annuity.
So I guess you've just ruined my next question.
Sorry, Fred.
Well, I was going to ask you if you could cure my slice.
Only by helping you in live. Yes, I can do it, but I'd have to see you up close and personal.
Okay, well, that's really not my problem. But I'll just scratch that one right off the list here. But you're give me something. I mean, how can you? I look for tips and drills frequently here, and I want to get something out of you here other than generic information about your academy. I want a lesson. I want something that I could take with me.
Well, I'm going to be really honest with you, Fred. I'm not of the belief that there's any such thing as a quick fix as far as the golf swing goes. And we are, as a group of teachers, and I guess since you're talking to me, and me in particular, I'm a fundamentalist, meaning that I think that all things with the golf swing begin pre-motion. And those are four things. That's grip, stance, alignment, and posture. Now, not every grip, not every stance, not every alignment, not every posture has to be the same, but there are certain things that each people have to do particular to them. When we first see someone at the school, those are the first things we look at. And if that's not right, then the rest of your golf swing will be a series of Band-Aids. So the first things are actually the most important things to address, are things that don't even involve motion at all. And when we're working with someone needs to establish really good fundamentals for them, and then they can worry about what the golf swing does. So as far as quick tips or little sayings that I could give you, while I'd love to do it, there's really no such thing. And in this game, what we've found is that you will get so much out of it as a student as you put into it, meaning that it's practice, and it's quality practice. It's practice with a purpose. It's practice with a design. And what we tell our students, and what the majority of them take advantage of, is that once we see them one time, we become their coach. So that when they get home, they can keep sending us video clips or digital pictures of their swing, and no matter where in the country they are or we are, we can keep helping them. And that's how you legitimately improve at this game. It's not by reading a magazine. It's not by picking up some gadget that's going to do something with your arms to connect your arms, or some video that's guaranteed to improve you in 7 or by 7 strokes. It's by honest-to-goodness hard work and quality instruction.
So somebody recently asked me, okay, wise guy, tell me the fastest way to knock 3 strokes off my next round.
Well,
and I told him to work on his putting.
Yeah, I mean, the short game, very much so. And, it's funny because that's become such a worn cliche, and everybody acknowledges that for the most part. But it's funny how few people actually put it into practice. But people should be practicing their short game, and by that I mean from 60 yards and in, at least half of the time that they spend practicing. And again, when they practice, they want to have a purpose to their practice. One of the things that every golf club has is a professional range player. In other words, somebody that's always out there working on something different, trying to find that magic thing that works, and then they get in a groove on the range, and they hit a bunch of great shots, but then they get out on the golf course, and because they've got several different ideas rolling around in their head, once they hit a bad shot, they're lost. So while they look like a scratch player on the range, in effect, they're a 20.
I noticed on your website you had an online behavior style survey.
Yes.
And
yep.
Is that required for somebody to fill out before they go to the school?
Yeah, it's really essential for us and for them, more importantly. We're very fortunate to be able to work with Carey Mumford. Carey was, for the lack of a better term, the very first golf sports psychologist, although he has no claim to being a psychologist, but he's really started what has now become an industry. And through his book, which is Clear Key and the Double Connection, it's a profile that's based on your style or your personality. One of the key ingredients in learning is to find out not how we as teachers would give you information, but how you would like it presented to you as an individual. So everybody has a unique style and personality. We get them to do the style profile in advance, and that tells us how they'd like to receive information. So it's a vital learning tool for us, because then we find out in advance how they'd like us to present it to them.
Very sophisticated. So I guess that on your website is, you have a section there called Think Like a Pro.
Exactly, and that's where you can read about Carey. He has devoted the great part of his latter life to really helping people understand the mental game. And it's such an overlooked thing. I mean, you hear all the time from different people that golf is such a mental game, yet when have you ever taken a mental golf lesson?
Hopefully the Golf Smarter podcast is your mental golf lesson.
Exactly. That's
we really do talk about that a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's good because it's such a key ingredient to improving in the game. It's not just about mechanics. It's about how you go about doing it.
No, we recently finished one of our shows with a quote that talked about how mechanics are only 20% of your game.
Well, I think it'd be hard to put a percentage on it.
Oh, of course. It was a lighthearted quote. But
yeah, I mean, I definitely understand it, and I understand, from where it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many times, I think one of the things that people do, one of the interesting things, for instance, if we were to go back to the profiling, and to give you a modern-day example, Jack Nicklaus was what we would call an analyzer, and an analyzer driver. And that type of style of person loves to be methodical. In fact, they need to be. So they're painstakingly slow in their approach to doing things, but they've got their own checklist, and they're going to do things when they're good and ready. So to put this into a golf perspective, Nicklaus's pre-shot routine would have been about 40 seconds long, and he would never hit a golf ball until he was ready to. So he was, while Mr. Nicklaus has done an awful lot for the game, I think he's also a little bit responsible for some of the slow play we see out there, because when somebody's the best at something, everybody wants to emulate that person. So if Nicklaus takes 45 seconds to hit a golf shot, or 40 seconds, then I should. And
well, if Nicklaus takes 45 seconds, I should take about 5 minutes.
Yep. Well, and that's what a certain fellow by the name of Greg Norman tried to do. But
what about Sergio Garcia?
Well, yeah, his thing's actually a little bit different. I mean, he's gotten much better with his waggling now.
Yeah, he has.
But Sergio, and that's a good thing, because taking a long time's not his style either. Greg Norman, you see, is a persuader. He's essentially a people person, and they're very fast-paced. So when Greg Norman was coming up, he idolized Jack Nicklaus. So who did he try to emulate? Jack Nicklaus. That's entirely the wrong style for him. He should have been hitting a shot in about 8 to 12 seconds, and he should have routinely done it. And the tragic 96 Masters, when he had a 7-shot lead with, I think, 15 holes to play, if you watched it, and you watch it closely, and you ever watch the rerun of it, you'll see he took 15 seconds to hit some shots, 45 seconds to hit others. So what's happening emotionally to that person is that they don't have something that they can fall back on, which we now call maybe a pre-shot routine, and they're doing something differently over every shot. And when you do that, thought becomes far too much of what your conscious is. And when you're doing something really well, you don't want to be conscious, you don't want to be thinking about results, you don't want to think where the ball to go. None of this stuff matters. You just want to be able to execute in a calm place. So you need to do that, though, in your own style. And if you're a fast-paced person, you should take 10, 12 seconds to hit a shot. But if you're a slow-paced person like Jack Nicklaus, take 40 seconds to hit one. But you shouldn't emulate people whose styles are different than yours.
Does your academy advocate pre-shot routine?
Oh, absolutely. What we advocate more than anything else is habit, doing something the same way every time. Because the more you do something the same way every time, the less you think. The more you think in this game, the worse off you are. I'll give you an example.
Please.
When you're little, and you and I are probably too old to remember, Fred, when we were little, but if we're looking at our children or grandchildren, and you see them riding a bike at the 3 or 4 years old, when a child is first learning to ride a bike, what do?
Fall down.
They fall down, yeah. And when they get back up again, where are they going to look, and what are they going to watch for?
The ground.
They look at the ground because they don't want to tumble back down to the ground, and they're watching their feet, and they're thinking, okay, left foot, right foot, right foot. But then and they still keep crashing, don't they?
Well, not my kids, because I actually, you got to do a sensitive subject there. The first thing I taught my children and my nieces and nephews, I've probably taught about 12 kids to ride bikes. The first thing I always taught them to do was how to fall down.
Awesome.
And once they felt comfortable in falling over and knew that, okay, if the bike falls, I don't have to go with it,
right,
they were much more confident in getting on and going forward.
Well, yes, and then after a while, what did they start to do once they got confident?
Looked forward.
They didn't worry about their feet anymore, did
they? They looked up.
Yeah, so they did something out of a habit, but they weren't consciously now thinking,
sure,
don't fall, or left foot, right foot, or any of those things, were they? They're just doing it. Similar to walking. When you learn to walk, you fall all over the joint. You're always watching your feet. But even though you and I take walking for granted, I guarantee you this, if you were to stand up right now and walk to the other side of your office and look at your feet, you know what you'd do?
Probably run into the table.
You might trip into something, yes, because now you're conscious of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the point being for golf, when you perform, and this, it doesn't matter in what avenue in life that you're doing, but whenever somebody does something well, they're doing it subconsciously, and that's because they have built a habit that they can do something without thinking. Habits are the result of working on skills, developing the correct skills, and doing something the same way every time.
Fascinating. One of the things that also intrigued me about your website is you have a section there on yoga.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Tell me why.
Well, I mean, one of the things, if you look at the evolution of Tiger, if you saw him when he was first a young man coming out in 96 and 97, he was pretty wiry and skinny, and then he worked out an awful lot. So he bulked up, and you'd notice that his upper body was really well developed, and he was getting very, very strong.
Mm-hmm.
He then realized, I think in the early 2000s, correctly, that golf is not a game of core strength, of huge muscles, but it's much more a game of flexibility.
Right.
Yoga is without a doubt the greatest discipline in the world to increase both breathing and flexibility. It's a wonderful, just everyday exercise. But as it pertains to golf, as I understand it, pretty much all of the top players in the world today are practicing some form of yoga or even Pilates, which is a much more aggressive style of yoga.
Right.
We were actually the first golf school in the world to introduce an engulfing yoga program. And that was not coincidentally designed by our director of operations, who is also my wife, but she'd much rather be called our director of operations. Kelly designed this great program, so when we see people, and we only offer it here in Phoenix, but when we see people, we offer them this as a part of their school. It's not anything additional or anything silly like that. And they can do a half-hour exercise with either Camille, who's our yoga instructor, or Kelly, and they put them through the ropes. And if people would continually do it, it would help them no end, because it really has increased the flexibility of a number of people we work with. And the more flexible you are as a golfer and the more that you can turn, the further you can hit the ball, and everybody wants to hit the ball further.
Yeah, right. Blah, blah, blah. Wait a minute. So these photos of the yoga on your website, is that your wife?
That's actually Kelly, yes, my wife. Mm-hmm. My much better half. But as I said earlier,
I haven't seen you yet, but she looks good doing poses.
Well,
I'm sorry, that was very rude.
I married above myself.
I apologize. That wasn't very nice of me.
Well, the truth hurts, that's all right.
Your staff. Mm-hmm. You've been talking a lot about them, and you have a section in your website, professional staff. The website, by the way, is birdgolf.com, birdgolf.com, so you can check that out for yourself. Tell me about your staff.
Well, as I said a little bit earlier, I really feel, not immodestly, that our staff is second to none. And we are so fortunate to be represented by some of the best teaching professionals I've ever known in my life. And I've pretty much met all of them or attended seminars where they were teaching, and I've observed everybody. We have, as a group of individuals, some incredible people.
Obviously, the credentials are all there for your instructors. And because you do a one-on-one or a two-on-one instruction, it really doesn't matter if you're a beginner or a single-digit player. You're going to get an opportunity to improve, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I mean, because it's very customized, it's very personalized. So people will tell us in advance what they want to do, and that's how we come up with a curriculum for their school. In fact, some of our best successes, though, have been with people who've never touched a golf club before.
Oh, well, that's interesting. That's where my wife falls into that category, and she's threatened to start playing golf. I don't know how thrilled I am about that, but she's threatened to play.
Well, that'd be great. I know Kelly, my wife, who we talked about a little bit earlier, she's sort of off and on about the game. She'd like to be really good, but she has to work too hard to be able to.
Yeah.
It works with a slave driver.
My wife is a hiker. She loves to just go and hike, and I say, "Hey, I do too. Except every so often, I like to hit something."
Well, you know what Mark Twain was what he called golf?
A good walk spoiled.
A good walk spoiled, yeah.
Absolutely. But, Jay, come on. You got to give me at least one tip before we go today, right?
Absolutely. Well, I tell you,
thank you.
The greatest tip that I've ever been given, which is as close to a quick fix as I've ever seen, came from Jim Sampsing, and it came from his mentor originally back in the 30s and 40s. But, Jim, this one thing will help your putting stroke more than anything imaginable. What I want people to do is I want them to take shiny, brand-new golf ball out to the putting green, and I want them to focus on the shiny spot of the golf ball and continue doing it until after they stroke it. And then I want your listeners to come back and tell us what they see underneath the ball.
You lost me.
Yeah.
So don't focus on the ball. Now I'm standing up and I'm practicing my putting stroke.
You're standing over your putter. You're standing with your putter in your hand. You're over the golf ball.
Yep.
I want you to focus on every ball will have a shiny spot, even on a cloudy day.
Okay.
Ball has a shiny spot, so I want
focus on that spot. So, like when the ball starts moving, don't follow the ball. Just
I want you to focus on the shiny spot and tell me what you see underneath it. And this is a bit of a quiz. Let's see if your listeners go up and do this correctly.
I know. My hand is raised. I know.
What is it?
Grass.
Correct, but actually, no, the answer has to be more specific.
Oh.
You're technically correct, but yes, you will see grass, but actually, and it has to do, I'll give you a tip. I'll give everybody a tip. It has something to do with the grass. But the answer I'm looking for is more specific.
Interesting. All right, I'm going to go back to the practice putting green today.
Just trust me when I tell you, and I want your listeners to do this. Watch the shiny spot of the golf ball. Tell us what you see underneath it. Your putting stroke will improve immeasurably.
Wow. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you one more question.
Okay.
All right, before we go. And now, not as a teacher, but as a golfer, the best advice you have ever received?
Actually, the best advice I ever got was from my old coach. His name was Alec Mercer. And Alec in many ways was the Australian Harvey Penick. In the way he taught, he was very simple. He believed very much in fundamentals and working and putting the hours and things into it that you need to, rather than any kind of quick fix or methodology. But one time when I was playing in a tournament, and I was actually fortunate enough to be in the lead after the third round, and on the Sunday morning, as I was getting ready to play, I was almost hyperventilating. And so Alec told me, he said, "Son, just remember to breathe." And if we'd all remember to breathe when we're playing, we'd find ourselves a lot more relaxed over the golf ball. But just remember to breathe.
All right, Jay, I promise I'll remember to breathe. So that is the Bird Golf Academy. And if you want information or you want to sign up for the Bird Golf Academy, go to birdgolf.com. All right, Jay, thanks so much for spending this time with us. We really appreciate it.
And
I'm sure you appreciate that infomercial that you were just able to give for the last 30 minutes.
Well, thank you so much, Fred. We really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. And we hope to be able to do it again with you.